Crown has you covered. Start your day with the first word. Cincinnati's only morning sports show. Power through midday with the working lunch. Cincinnati business talk that keeps you in the know. Nat tries that for lifestyle around the city. And the Rebound Rundown covers every corner of the college basketball scene in the tri-state and beyond. This is The Crown. Built for Cincinnati. First word for your morning sports. The working lunch for business that hits home. Nat tries that for lifestyle around the city. And Rebound Rundown for college hoops. This city deserves its crown. Watch, listen, subscribe.
Midday in the Queen City, business is booming. A big expansion, a shocking closing, and a conversation with a great living Cincinnatian. Let's do lunch. Cincinnati is a city that means business. Fortune 500 company HQs, renowned institutions like Children's Hospital and the Cincinnati Zoo, and letters that everyone here knows: TQL, GE, CVG, UC, and X. It's also a city that's large enough for new ideas to take root and grow. You know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody, and you're in business. I'm Jack Crumley, and this is The Working Lunch. Hello, welcome to The Working Lunch. I'm Jack Crumley. This is our hour-long business show here on The Crown, where we bring you updates about the activities of local businesses and companies. We bring you exclusive interviews with business owners and local leaders. And we occasionally squeeze in a bite to eat, maybe something to drink before you go back and face the afternoon. Thanks for watching. Cincinnati business headlines presented by First State Bank. Built on belief and committed to doing right by our communities, First State Bank offers checking, savings, and mortgage services, all from your phone. They believe in this community and they believe in you. Visit FSB4me.com. That's First State Bank, member FDIC, an equal housing lender. The big news today, as far as I'm concerned, skywalks are back. We knew already that the Convention Center Hotel that's currently under construction is going to have a sky bridge to connect with the First Financial Center. And now both the Business Courier and Collier's have details about Division's Maintenance Group, DMG, leasing new space in the Huntington Center as part of a big expansion. It's going to be right by DMG's HQ that's in the Foundry building right nearby. It's a $6 million build-out, creating at least 100 new jobs in the sales department. DMG handles maintenance for residential, commercial, and industrial buildings, starting out managing a lot sweeping for a single store in Alexandria, Kentucky years ago. They're now taking 20,000 square feet on the third and fourth floors of the Huntington Center. And, this is my headline, they are putting in a skywalk to connect the two. Fun fact, when I first moved here, I was checking out the old skywalk downtown, and I bumped into Ben Vereen, who I believe was dressed like he was in a Dickens novel. I assume that was for a performance or maybe some kind of Macy's promotion. It's weird what you remember. Shout out to Zoobly Zoo. DMG has seen some nice growth since consolidating in the Foundry back in 2023, going from 800 employees nationwide to now 1,100 today. Lots of attention being paid to downtown Cincinnati these last few months. We've talked about it. New apartments, expanding companies. It's been very cool to see. And a spokesperson for DMG gave a quote to the Business Courier about this expansion, saying that being downtown is a huge draw, saying people love the restaurants and bars. The Hillman Group, meantime, is a local company that sells hardware and home improvement products to stores. It's dropping over $300 million in order to buy Cambridge Corporation, which is a master distributor of industrial fasteners, both commercial and military grade. Cambridge also has a proprietary digital ordering platform called Fastnet, which allows for same-day shipping, and I'm sure that was a very attractive part of the acquisition as well. This gets Cincinnati-based Hillman into the industrial side of things, and that is seen as a big growth opportunity for the company. Moving on from there. And a surprising closure announcement was made today. This was pretty shocking. You've probably seen 80 Acres Farm products for sale in the produce section of Kroger. This was a big-time vertical farming operation based in Hamilton. A larger spot opened up in Florence in 2023. They had the only tomatoes and cucumbers in the world that were cultivated entirely under LED lighting. We're talking hydroponic farming here. Major agriculture production all indoors. And they are closing. CEO Mike Zelkind issued a statement saying the company is winding down now after an exhaustive effort to find a way forward. That statement says the company just couldn't come up with the capital needed to keep going. 80 Acres Farms made a presentation at the UN earlier this year, but you may have the prestige. If the money's not there, though, the money's not there. It was a really shocking announcement for me to see. Big investments, big expansions made. And so much of the talk about that company was how it represented the future of farming. We'll have to see what that future is now. That moves us into today's Big Bite. where we focus on one particular story or topic happening in our community, a community we believe in with our partners at First State Bank. Stop into one of their local branches or visit online at fsb4me.com to access all the helpful tools and services at First State Bank, built on belief and committed to doing right by our communities. For today's Big Bite presented by First State Bank, we're getting into the construction business. My guest today is former Messer Construction President and CEO Pete Strange, named by the Cincinnati Regional Chamber as a 2026 Great Living Cincinnatian. That's a real title. The construction industry is a complicated one at best, where there are a lot of outside factors that affect things even before the actual construction work begins. Here in Cincinnati, we have seen a number of big projects over just the last 20 years. And there's a ton of work going on right now. CincinnatiTransit.net has a bunch of pictures going back decades showing the construction process for so many things that we have here now. We've talked about before on the show the tremendous change that this area saw with the stadiums more than 2 decades ago, the redevelopment of Over the Rhine, and then getting the Banks project finally going and finished with more work to come there. But about this time last year is when the Associated General Contractors of America put out a report saying that the Cincinnati metro area added 5,800 construction jobs in the year before that, from summer of 24 to the summer of 25. That was the second fastest growth in the country, seeing levels not seen since that transformative work from the early 2000s. Check out this chart here from Fred. That would be the Federal Reserve economic data, showing things back up to the level on the far right, things back up to where they were just before the Great Recession hit in 07 and 08. It's been a steady climb since 2010. The executive director of Allied Construction Industries at the time of that report said that the Cincinnati area has been straight up booming. Think about all the big projects that have been going on in just the last couple of years. Cincinnati's first financial center was a $264 million renovation process that lasted for 18 months right in the heart of downtown. It took more than 2,000 workers to add the 6,000 square foot rooftop terrace, renovate the Queen City Ballroom, modernize the meeting spaces and more, along with the work on that new Elm Street Plaza. That's all open now. That was a massive project that involved a ton of financing, and the overall project isn't done yet. There is still that $500 million convention center hotel where ground was broken just in the last few days. Not far from there, north in the West End, is the mixed-use development that's been dug out near TQL Stadium. That's a more than $300 million project expected to include new apartments, a new hotel, an entertainment venue, public plaza, and more. That will also need about 2,000 construction workers. It is sitting there ready to go. Last we heard, FC Cincinnati was waiting on a decision about getting unclaimed funds from the state of Ohio to help pay for that big expansion project. Just across the Ohio River in Covington, Kentucky, is where the Combo NKU UK Commonwealth Center is going to be built. That's a $125 million project, secured largely through state funding. That's happening near the riverfront in a part of Covington that's really turning into a bustling center, with the Northern Kentucky Convention Center nearby and the River Center mixed-use development right there along the water. We talked just yesterday about all the work done to expand the Cincinnati Open at the Lindner Family Tennis Center. Hundreds of construction workers operating in a very aggressive time frame, just 11 months. To expand much of that 40-acre site. And there is another big project that's been underway in Mason for a little while now. About this time last year is when Procter & Gamble announced an expansion at its Mason campus. $450 million for construction projects to put up at least 2 new buildings for research and lab work there, to relocate hundreds of workers. We don't know exactly how many construction jobs that massive expansion is generating, but it is a multi-year project that is currently underway, should be done by about the year 2030. And you can't talk about construction in this region these days without bringing up the Brent Spence Companion Bridge. The Ohio Department of Transportation had an update on the construction of that massive span in just the last few days. Take a look.
Another bridge that's making progress is the Brent Spence Companion Bridge in Cincinnati.
The first pour for the first 48 drilled shafts is completed. The Walsh-Kokosing team, along with ODOT, shared a tradition of dropping a miraculous metal into the first concrete pour.
Walsh Construction drops a metal in the first concrete pour of every project. The tradition started over 60 years ago by the Walsh family. This ritual inspires workers to finish the job safely and successfully. It symbolizes faith, teamwork, and the foundation of the building.
ODOT puts out that weekly The Loop show. It's really informative. We are still in the early days of this massive infrastructure project. It is nearly 8 miles of work overall being done because crews aren't just building a new bridge. They are revamping the highway approach on both sides of the river and adjusting interstate traffic to connect. Estimated cost there somewhere around $4 billion, requiring about 6 million hours of work. That'll employ more than 700 skilled trades workers. Total workforce hitting about 1,000 at the peak of construction. We're not even there yet. Targeted completion date there, 2031 for the bridge itself, 2033 for the roadside approaches. That is really not a complete list, just a smattering of some of the bigger projects we're seeing here locally as plans for other projects like expanding the banks or potentially putting caps on Fort Washington Way are just now in the discussion, really not even planning stages. Lots of talk and lots more work being done, more to come. A man who has seen this region change with his former company at the center of a lot of that change is Pete Strange, the former CEO of Messer Construction. He's my guest when we come back. You're watching The Working Lunch on The Crown. You should stick around.
Our beliefs matter. They're reflected in our words and actions. At First State Bank, we believe in treating people well and have since 1884. Listening, caring, looking out for each other. It's what people deserve. It's what a real local bank does. While lots of things have changed over the years, our belief in you hasn't. First State Bank, built on belief.
My name is Jack Crumley. I've been covering news in Cincinnati on the radio for the last 20 years. I grew up in Northeast Ohio, but Cincinnati has always felt like home since day one. I've seen so many things accomplished here, and now, with The Working Lunch, I get to write, read, and talk about them every day. hardworking people with a drive and a dream, innovative ideas that help shape this city. Cincinnati is a great city, and I'm excited to tell you about it every day. Welcome back to the Working Lunch. I'm Jack Crumley. I am joined now by Pete Strange, the former CEO of Messer Construction, one of the great companies here in this city, and also a 2026 Great Living Cincinnatian, which, as we said, that's a real title here in this city.
It is very humbling.
Yeah.
It's especially humbling to be joining three amazing leaders this year and to follow so many folks that I've long admired. I especially, other than the shock of the announcement when they told me about this, it was the call I got the next day from my good friend Charlie Meacham, and a former winner who was very deserving. Okay. Who called just to remind me of the stress of staying alive between the announcement and the dinner, that they would rescind it because it's a living award.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to disappoint everybody by not being able to show up for the award. That is an award that is presented by the Regional Chamber. You were in the 2026 class, which was you. It was Jeff Weiler of the Weiler Automotive family, a woman by the name of Francie Hiltz, known for her philanthropy all throughout the area, and Dr. Karen Bankston, who I think made a name for herself in healthcare administration. Were these people, I mean, I think Jeff Weiler, it seems maybe a little more obvious that maybe you would have known before, but I mean, were these other folks people that you had interacted with over the years?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And especially Francie and Karen.
Yeah.
So Karen led the hospital, the rehab part of the hospital and part of her career, and we had, being in construction, some folks who had great benefit from that. Yeah. And Francie has just been everywhere. Yeah. And the work that she and Tom have done, not just in Cincinnati, but across this world. It was a real shame that she was not able to attend the dinner because of some short-term health problems.
Oh, that's a shame. Pete, I get the vibe right off the bat that you're a humble guy, and the idea of talking about this award that was bestowed upon you, I don't think I would be any more comfortable with it either. What is it like to know the career that you have had? You were the president and CEO of Messer Construction for something like 2 decades. All the work that you've done in the nonprofit sector, and seeing this award as a level of outside validation of other people recognizing all the work and effort that you put in over those years, not to get the recognition, but just to do it.
It is, as I said, humbling, and I'm deeply appreciative of the awards. I am sort of a victim of having a father who was both a poet and the lightweight boxing champion of the Army.
Oh, wow.
So I always remember those lines: look up, not down, look forward, not back, look out, not in, and lend a hand. The looking forward part is what's important, especially at my age. If your trajectory is not up, you need to be, trying to get something done.
Yeah, keep a hand on the stick and keep pulling up. Let's talk about you mentioned your childhood and growing up. You were in the construction business for 50 years plus, and it's my understanding that, how did it start? Were you like a little kid going with your grandpa to the job site?
Yes, I was fortunate to be born the oldest grandson in a little family construction company in Kentucky, run off the card table in Grandpa's living room. The day after my 6th birthday, he put me in the pickup truck and took me to a house they were building. Up onto the roof, tied a rope around my waist and a rope around the chimney, and I carried nails and shingles to my uncle's putting on the roof.
Safety first.
Well, proving I wasn't the shiniest leaf on the family tree, it took me till I was about 18 to realize if the rope was long enough to reach the entire ridge of the house, it never would have kept me from hitting the ground. Like a lot of things with Grandpa, the rope was for confidence, not for comfort. But for me, that first day, I started a life of adventures. I loved the sounds, the smells, the sights of construction, but most of all, I loved construction workers. I learned that intelligence and opportunity are two different things. And there's nothing wrong with being self-sufficient and independent. And it's serving those great people.
Yeah.
It is the foundation of whatever success I've found.
Yeah, that was a really formative thing, and I know what you mean about that sort of sense memory. I mean, everybody knows the smell of a hardware store, right? That's something that just gets into your
roots in a new excavation.
Absolutely,
you know, something new was starting.
So you knew right from then that that's the world that you wanted to live in.
Well, I didn't choose construction; it chose me. But it was a glorious building, growing up, because I had adventures every day. And I would have been perfectly happy, except I had one of those mothers. She was the only person on either side of my family that had a college degree before me.
Okay.
And I was more afraid of her than I was of calculus. So I took my pickup truck and headed off to UC and engineering school. And when I went in to meet with the co-op coordinator, brash young kid, I said, I got a pickup truck and a tool belt out in the parking lot. And he started talking, and my entire life turns on this sentence. I said, Mister, I wouldn't know anything about any of it. Which one's closest to Kentucky? And that's how I met Messer.
Boy, no kidding. Yeah. And you worked for Messer you were with them for 50 odd years, right?
I didn't have the gumption to quit my co-op job.
Well, when you got a good thing, I mean, why walk away from it when you got a good thing? A bird in the hand, right?
Yeah, I stayed at Messer after I graduated basically for 3 reasons. Everything fit. I'd grown up in a world where human beings were a commodity. Hire them when you need them, fire them when you don't.
Yeah.
Topping out's buying everybody a beer and then laying them off the next day. So it was right for me. More important, I didn't want to go home and have to root for my own grandpa to die before I could have a say in running a company.
Sure.
And thirdly, I found people at Messer, primarily the people from the crafts, who cared about me when I wasn't smart enough to care about myself. And the fun of being with those people, the learning that everyone is more than their job title.
What does that mean, that bit about they cared about you when you didn't have the smarts to care about yourself? Is there specific memories you have of that notion?
I guess because of the way I grew up. You know, they used to have a game they called Our Boy Can Whip Your Boy, which usually involved me getting beat up twice, once by some hod carrier's kid and once by Uncle Jim who bet on me. But
boy fights.
I was what you might call brash.
Okay.
And I relished the reality of construction, this commodity thing. I threatened to quit every day because I had my complete freedom because you didn't have to be loyal to people who would lay you off.
Yeah.
And so the wonderful people, and I could name so many, who would take me aside and say, you know what, if you keep your damn mouth shut for just one day, things might go better around here. And they were generally, you know, project managers or carpenter foremen or people I'd grown up with.
So how much of experiences like that, lessons you're learning from your colleagues, your peers, your immediate bosses, all that stuff, as time goes on, you become the president and CEO of the company. How much do memories like that influence your leadership and your leadership philosophy?
I think 100%. Number one, I only learned 2 things in 5 years of engineering school. I learned not to panic in the face of complexity, which serves very well, and I learned to respect data. So many decisions are made like, I feel we ought to do this, instead of finding out what's going to be the implications. Most of my success can be attributed to one conversation. It's a conversation that happened after I left the room. I had lots of ideas. I'd gather groups of people, whether it was craft workers or senior management, and I'd tell them my idea and how great it would be if we implemented the idea and what they'd have to do to get it done,
yeah, really pitch
how they'd benefit. And when I left the room, somebody in the room would say, Strange ain't as smart as he thinks he is. He has no idea what he's asking us to do, and he certainly doesn't know whether it'll benefit us, just him. And if somebody else in the room said, yeah, but he cared enough and come and tell us himself, why don't we try to make it work?
Oh, wow.
What I learned was that information is not engagement, communication is not engagement, only engagement is engagement.
Yeah, and I've looked up a little bit about you, and this is certainly not the first interview that you've done about your career and your life and this sort of overarching philosophy that I know you've talked about a lot of the sense of connection and social obligation to one another, and the idea that I think that would maybe surprise a lot of people that's coming from a guy that came up working in the trades, traditionally considered blue-collar stuff, where I think the stereotype and the assumption is that there's not a lot of time to think about philosophical things like that. And, then being a businessman running a company where I think the assumption and the stereotype is that there's so much emphasis just put on the bottom line. But you're saying that there's value in making those connections because that all feeds into everything.
It came down to it turned out that we wanted. When the last son of the founder of Messer died, the company was owned by a trust for the benefit of 14 grandchildren. Only one of them even had a job in the company. And so something was going to happen. And us young people, there was sort of a gap in the demographics of the company because of the cycles of growth and getting smaller. That something could have been sale to an outside company. It could have been selling the assets. It could have been us going and getting different jobs. I didn't come to the idea of employee ownership naturally.
Yeah, this was a big deal in the company. I just want to set this up for folks. Under your leadership of Messer Construction, it went from being the company that you just described to the benefit of, a dozen grandchildren to being an employee-owned company. You did an ESOP. That's a huge change.
It was a big change. And what happened before we got to that change was that a small group of us sat down and had a conversation about why would we do this? Yeah. We've got good jobs. We can go get other good jobs. The answers for us were around information to allow us to make informed decisions about our own future. In the family-owned company, there seemed to be an honest fear that we'd find out the plan and defeat it. And so we wanted that information. We wanted to be able to complete the equation. We knew what we brought to the table in terms of preparation and energy and emotion. We couldn't see how that connected directly to advancement and compensation.
Yeah.
And most of all, we wanted equity. And this was sort of an attitude that I got from my old man. He used to say that working is the worst thing you ever do in your life. Boss going to give you money? He can replace that money 10,000 different ways. You're going to give the boss time. He wastes your time, there's not a port in the land for you to go and sue and get the time back.
Right.
The equity we wanted was to make sure that accidents of timing, accidents of birth, accidents of location didn't defeat all of the effort and preparation that employees put in. We wanted a place where any point of entry could support any aspiration. It's interesting because I make fun of accountants a lot. I'm an engineer. Accounting is not math. Math is finite element analysis and Lorentz transformations.
Yeah, I've said that just this morning.
Accounting is arithmetic.
Yeah.
And this notion of, how you look at the future and do the arithmetic around growth, it led us to defining the fundamental purpose of the enterprise as not being construction. That's a path to the purpose. It's a wonderful thing. It's all I've ever done. The fundamental purpose of the enterprise is to allow caring, committed, prepared human beings to make the trade that matters most in life, to trade what's inside themselves for value. Value for themselves, their families, their community, their company, and their profession. Staying focused on that breaks you free of tinkering with the past in your planning.
And so then once this big change was made and Messer becomes an employee-owned company, that was a period of tremendous growth for the company, right? It went from being a couple hundred employees in one office to multiple offices in multiple states, if I'm not mistaken.
Over 35 years, so that's not exactly,
It wasn't an immediate turnaround.
A lightning bolt. And that's one of the things that we focused on. If the purpose is to grow people, then capacity defines your size, not opportunity. And one of the data points is back when we finished the project at Lawrenceburg, the casino.
Yeah.
That year, our revenue grew by $100 million. We set a goal to reduce it the following year because we didn't want to get revenue ahead of capacity. So over time, it will be what you grow internally that will define whether you're sustainable or not.
Boy, yeah, managed growth is such a difficult thing because every little kid wants to go from being 6 years old to being 15, know how to ride a bike. Everybody that owns a business and who's making X amount of money a month really wants to make this much more money a month. Being able to have the wherewithal to have managed growth it's almost like fighting against human nature.
It is interesting. The biggest change that came in doing the ESOP, in addition to communication, making sure everyone knew the plan, was to change the planning horizon from 3-5 years to 30 years. Because an ESOP is a promise you make the new employee that you're going to deliver on retirement day. And when we made that decision, the great story about that is in 2008, when the big recession or whatever it was called came forward, we had hundreds of millions of dollars in construction revenue canceled because of what was happening in the broader economy. We were very lucky that by that time we had instituted an independent board of directors. And the question before the board became, do we maintain profits for this year by cutting all of our overhead? Or do we keep the capacity and be prepared to meet the market when the work comes back?
And it definitely did.
And that's, you showed the chart of how it has come back over time. So the other interesting thing about the ESOP is the effect it's had on the individual person's planning. I grew up in a world where the goal was to be broke even.
Yeah, right.
Once the bills were paid, we'd take off and go hunting or fishing. After you start accumulating capital that you know is more than you will spend in your lifetime, you start thinking about longer-term investments in children and grandchildren's education and community projects and things that you can do that will last after you're gone.
Yeah, thinking beyond just yourself and being able to see past the end of your own nose. Pete Strange is the former CEO of Messer Construction. Pete, we got to take a break. I hate to interrupt this, but we got to run some promos and pay some bills. We've got more Working Lunch, though, when we come back. Got the former CEO of Messer Construction, great living Cincinnatian, Pete Strange with us. Stick around, more to come.
Okay, who are you?
Well, you have a First State Bank checking account, so you'll be getting cash back whenever you use it.
Oh,
Open a checking account at First State Bank for cash back. First State Bank, built on belief.
how did you get in here?
What is The Crown? It's simple, really. Authentic Cincinnati entertainment. Not hot takes from a studio 3 states away. Not national noise pretending to know this city. Rather, bringing a voice to those who call the Queen City home. Where can I watch The Crown shows? Join us live from 7 to 11 a.m. for First Word and 12 to 1 for the Working Lunch on RESN. No live TV? No problem. Stream and interact with all of our content on major podcast, broadcast, and streaming platforms. The Crown is Cincinnati. Loud, passionate, competitive, proud. From early morning sports debates to the business leaders shaping the riverfront, to the fans, stories, moments, and culture that make this place move. Live shows, podcasts, documentaries, digital content built from Cincinnati, for Cincinnati. This is The Crown.
What does it mean for your company to have won a national award like this?
Well, first of all, we're honored to be included with companies that are true paragons of community building, both nationally and internationally. Secondly, I'm very proud to be here on behalf of more than 800 employees who have created a model that is not a business school model. It's a primary school model where fairness matters, where every voice counts, and where everyone gets to contribute. And finally, I'm energized because we realize that this honor, while it's very important, is a milepost. It's not the goal. So we're going back with renewed energy toward the goal of creating communities of trust where every citizen has both the opportunity and the motivation to be part of value creation.
So that's a little time capsule there for you. That is a video from how long ago?
Oh, I'm sure 20 years ago or so.
Do you remember that?
20 pounds ago, at least.
the Better Business Bureau Torch Award, and and even then you're laying out this thoughtful, ethical, philosophical vision for the way that you guys do business.
Well, it all comes down to a career is not preparation for a good life that you'll have after retirement. A career is life itself, and a lot of people can make a good living. Only a few people can make a good life and balance it out.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to do with how many hours you work.
Yeah. Do you, clearly, again, a lot of thought, a lot of philosophy on this stuff. Do you have a favorite business book?
It's always an opportunity to share my most frustrating data point.
Okay.
The data says that the entering freshmen in the engineering schools across this country outscore the entering freshmen in the English department on average on the verbal side of the SAT. But after 4 or 5 years of training, the faculty in those engineering schools send those kids to me as grammatical anarchists. Mm-hmm. And now they use letters to represent words. My favorite book is Elements of Style.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
If you cannot convey your ideas in a way that the people in the receiving end can act upon them, then you're just blowing smoke.
Well, and we talked about before when we were discussing Messer Construction becoming that employee-owned company, being able to communicate the long-term plans, honesty with employees. That's all communication.
Yeah. My 3 great learnings are that good ideas don't come from job titles. Good ideas come from human beings who understand the goals, understand how they can contribute to the goals, and think it's okay to have a good idea even if it disagrees with the boss. That caring is not a product of authority. That people at every level of the enterprise are living and dying with what's going on around them. One of my favorite stories is we worked for 2 decades to get into a major hospital. Mm-hmm. About 2 months into the project, the VP of facilities called me and started the conversation by saying, "I'm frustrated with your company." Mm-hmm. I fearfully asked, "What's wrong?" He said, there's been a pothole in the public street in front of our main entrance for 3 weeks, and my boss has been getting madder and madder because I can't get the city to do anything about it. He came in today and there was a pickup truck tamping up to the pothole and a guy tamping coal patch into it. He rolled down his window and said, it's about time the city did something. And the guy said, no, he said, I'm just a labor foreman for Messer. I thought you wouldn't want a pothole in front of your thing. He said, I'm frustrated because I can't get rid of you now even if I want to. My boss is in love with your workers.
What a tough problem to have.
That trumps everything I ever did in a presentation. That sort of, caring act by an employee. And my final great learning is that all of the advantages we have in the marketplace can be boiled down to one word. The word is trust. Trust is to human performance what water is to human health. You get a lot of it every day, you might thrive. You're deprived of it, I really don't much care how smart your business plan looks on paper.
Yeah, and there are times when it seems like that is maybe we're in more of a drought phase sometimes than other times. We talked about your time as the CEO of Messer Construction, but also one of the other things that I definitely want to make sure we get into here on the show is all of your nonprofit work. I've got stats from you about being involved in some 40 nonprofit boards. Pete, I know you've got a family, you've had kids. Where do you, between being the CEO of a construction company and then serving on all these boards and having a family, how are you budgeting your time?
Well, as Grandpa always said, you get 3 8-hour work days every 24 hours if you don't screw it up by eating and sleeping. My adventure in community service actually started about 50 years ago with a call from a wonderful lady, a nun by the name of Sister Jean Patrice Harrington. She started the call by saying, young man, I need an hour of your time. I'd never talked to a nun before.
This is just a cold call.
A cold call, yeah. How she got my number, I don't know. But I grew up with 2 Baptist ministers in my family. I wasn't talking to nuns. It took me a while to realize if a nun says the words, I need an hour of your time, she means an hour a day forever.
Oh.
But what I discovered, and what has meant so much to Messer, is there is no shorter path to personal leadership growth than joining with a diverse group of people to really attack important goals and find ways to make a difference.
Yeah,
and
strength through
it has become
diversity.
Part of, the opportunity for growth and for connections and for understanding the community better. One of the sort of bylines that we live by, it would be impossible to be a high-end builder in a community where people don't want to invest. And one of the realities when I talk about this math versus arithmetic, the reality of our future, especially in construction, is not about sociology. It is about the arithmetic. The people we're going to hire in the next 20 years are already here. They're already in the schools. Can't have a meeting and redefine what the talent pool looks like. You need to have a meeting and figure out how you're going to access all of that talent.
Well, and you talked before about the idea of, the things that separate people. So much of it just comes down to opportunity, and so much of that comes down to geography, and so many things that you're talking about, these young people that are maybe coming up, things that they have no control over, and the idea of wanting to make sure that the table is set in a way where people can come and get a bite to eat. Metaphorically speaking, that's all stuff that guides your nonprofit work. I know you did a lot of work with the National Underground Railroad Freedom Center.
Yeah, the part that moves me about the Freedom Center is not the exhibits, although it's important for us to stay connected to the history. It is the opportunity for leadership growth. Understanding that bias is not about good people, bad people. It's about science. It's about how you were framed and taught. And each of us comes with our bias. I am full of stories, but Messer had never had a woman on a project until Procter & Gamble made a requirement of a contract back in 1970 that they hire a woman accountant for a project at Miami Valley Labs.
Just specifically in the accounting department?
In the accounting department. I happened to be a co-op on that project with my green pickup truck and all of my craft worker friends. So when I saw this woman unload out of her little car in high heels and a dress, I thought I better tell her how things were. That first day I told her there are 2 groups of people in construction. There are builders, that's men like me, who create value. And there's a group of people we call bean counters. The girl might get to be a bean counter, but she's never going to be a builder. We didn't get along very well,
Yeah, I
but
can't
proving
imagine.
that lady was a very strong person, she was still with the company when I had the meeting with the accountant about whether employees with no capital could buy a big company.
Yeah.
It was on a Sunday morning. He had a lot of ideas and insights and didn't understand a thing about the volatile transactional world we lived in. He went off the tailgate at the Bengals game, and I went downstairs and found the payphone and called Kathy on the telephone. I said, Kathy, this is Pete. What do you want? I said, Kathy, you remember that conversation that we had the first day you were with Messer? She said, Pete, I cannot believe you're drunk already on a Sunday morning.
Why are you bringing this up?
I said, just think of this. I'm on a payphone and the cord is long enough to get down on my knees and say, I need the help of an accountant real bad right now. And that was an extraordinary impact on the future of the company. We spent 52 of the next 56 weekends together trying to find a model.
Yeah.
But it opened my eyes and the eyes of other leaders that the enterprise is more than the cubic yards of concrete. Growing up, you measured everything by noise and production, that there's a lot more thinking that goes into that.
Well, and I think you're also illustrating a really important point too about advantages of in leadership of being able to recognize when learning has taken place, and the idea that mistakes are really the only way to lead to real growth and learning from things to improve.
Isn't that the saddest part of how we grow as a community and a company? All of the things we learned and discarded and have to learn them again.
Yeah.
That that cycle of having something go wrong and saying to some old guy, daggone it. And he said, that exact same thing happened to me 20 years ago.
Why didn't you tell me?
Why didn't we just capture that?
Yeah.
And again, that's, if you have a community of learners instead of a community of workers, then you can share that knowledge in ways that hopefully it's sticky and stays with the enterprise.
Yeah. We don't have too much time left. I do want to ask you one other thing, because we've spoken so much about sort of leadership philosophies and the thought that you've put into things ethically and otherwise, but also as a business owner, did you have times when your philosophy and your ethics butted up against the nuts and bolts of a business-related decision?
Everybody has those issues. Mm-hmm. And it does go back to your planning horizon. Is the job of the leader to deal with the merely urgent and interesting, or is the job of the leader to keep the focus on the truly important? And you have to start every conversation, every planning cycle with what's non-negotiable. And what we learned over time is we're really good at building buildings, maybe building other things, building people. Any fighting with people is a distraction. Do what's right and let the chips fall where they may. I was moved by your story about the folks who have run out of cash.
Oh yeah, the 80 acres farms.
There is no future if you can't fund the future, but finding ways to fund a future that is a good life for the people doing and not a compromise is worth doing.
Pete Strange is the former CEO of Messer Construction, named by the Regional Chamber as one of 4 great living Cincinnatians for 2026. Pete, I'm glad that you were able to stick around long enough to accept that award, and I'm glad that you are here with us today, being able to speak to you. It was a real pleasure.
Thank you.
We've got to take a break. We do have some more working lunch, though. When we come back, stick around.
Our beliefs matter. They're reflected in our words and actions. At First State Bank, we believe in treating people well, and have since 1884. Listening, caring, looking out for each other. It's what people deserve. It's what a real local bank does. While lots of things have changed over the years, our belief in you hasn't. First State Bank, built on belief.
This is the Rebound Rundown. I'm your host, Paul Fritchner. Your home for college basketball in the Cincinnati area and across the country every Monday through Friday during the season. Previews, recaps, breakdowns, interviews, and more. You can find it all right here. Your one-stop shop for a quick dose of college hoops on your morning commute. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi, my name is Natalie Jones, a Cincinnati native, and I have been in media for about 10 years now. Formerly on the radio here in Cincinnati, I grew my love and obsession with finding all things fun in Cincinnati and have now made it my life. I'm originally from the West Side here, and then I've pretty much been a downtown girl ever since college. But I did leave for 7 years, and during that time, I really grew and harnessed and cut my teeth doing stand-up comedy in Los Angeles, learning how to ski in Colorado, and now I'm back here in Cincinnati, driven by curiosity and grounded by family.
Welcome back to the Working Lunch, wrapping things up on today's show. I did want to put something on your radar. It's going on this week. It's going on right now. It started this past Sunday. Findlay Market is helping to celebrate National Farmers Market Week. That is going on right now, the first week of August. And, especially in light of that announcement about 80 Acres Farms closing, this feels appropriate. Findlay Market had some events this past Sunday. They've got some more stuff going on this coming Saturday. Things like free produce samples. There's a talk being put on by Gorman Heritage Farms about pollination. We've heard stuff about bees and colony collapse and how important it is that we have bees that are pollinating things to make our food. There's live music and more. I had the pleasure of having Kelly Lancer on the show to talk about all the work that they're doing there at Findlay Market. We've talked about the history of that market. What an incredible resource. They just did that major fundraising campaign to work on a big expansion. Findlay Market's a great place, and they are celebrating National Farmers Market Week, and I thought that was something that you should know about. Hey, there's a million ways that you can watch the show, of course. CincyCrown.com is the website. We're on YouTube. We're on Spotify. We're on Mixler. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're on iHeart Podcasts. We're over the air. We're Altifiber. We're Spectrum. We're everything. Stream live or on demand. CincyCrown.com. I happen to know for a fact that there's a new Nat Tries That I believe is out today. I believe it involves her going to the Bonbonnery, which is one of my favorite little bakeries in town in O'Brienville. I think there's a frosting mishap, if I'm not giving too much of a spoiler alert there. All sorts of ways you can engage and watch our shows here on The Crown. We really appreciate it. We're building a thing here, and we love having you along with us. Big thanks to Pete Strange, the former CEO of Messer Construction, one of 2026's great living Cincinnatians with a ton of knowledge. Happy to be able to pick his brain on things. We got to go. That's the show for today. We're back tomorrow at noon.